Hello everyone. I'm truly grateful to have you here, and I'm excited to dive into part 2 of our Financial Freedom series today. Honestly, I have to admit, I didn't expect the last episode to be received so well. Initially, I thought personal finance wasn't a topic that would grab people's attention. But I decided to go ahead with it because, for me, the goal of these podcasts isn't just to get tons of views. What I really want is to create value for all of you, especially for the younger crowd, like myself. I've said it many times before, but if my sharing can positively impact just a few people, then it's already worth all the effort. That's what truly matters to me. The second reason is that the last episode was the first time I dug into the theoretical side of things, those foundational concepts. While it's crucial, we all know that theory tends to be a little dry, not as exciting as practice. However, I want to emphasize that before we dive into practical steps, we need to understand the why behind what we're doing. That's why, even though it might seem a bit boring, the theory is essential. And for those of you who haven't listened to the first episode yet, I highly recommend you go back and listen to it before continuing with this one. At first, I thought the first episode wouldn't get much attention, but the response was a huge surprise. After it aired, I received so many messages, emails, and comments on YouTube saying that people found it inspiring. Honestly, there's nothing more fulfilling than seeing that what I do has brought value, even if it's just a little, to others around me. Those responses have really given me the motivation to keep going with these podcasts. So if this is your first time tuning in, let me give you a quick intro. This podcast is all about two main topics: personal finance and money management skills. Real-life investment lessons from years of navigating the market. Once again, thank you for being here. Let's dive into today's main topic. Now, we're going to start diving into the specifics of the financial freedom journey and break down the steps involved. Typically, in my talks, I have this habit of taking things step by step before moving on to the big picture. However, in this episode, I'm going to do things a little differently. I'll start by showing you the overall journey from start to finish. This will give you a clear vision of where we're headed and how each step contributes to the bigger picture. It's important to understand the entire process first, so that you can see how everything fits together and why each piece is crucial for building your financial freedom. Once we go through this overview, we'll then break down each step in more detail in future episodes. I believe this approach will help you get a clearer sense of direction and will make the steps feel more manageable as we go along. So, let's jump in and take a look at the entire journey. So, here's the entire journey laid out for you. We will have a total of 12 steps, divided into 4 stages. I'll explain all of these steps within each stage, and then in future episodes, we'll dive deeper into each specific stage. The first milestone in this journey is what I call the debt stage. This can be considered a negative milestone, and it reflects the development of most young people, especially those in other countries. The reason for this is that when many young people start their adult lives, they often carry a significant amount of debt, primarily from student loans they've taken from the government to pay for their college education. This is a common issue that many young people face. Student loan debt is one of the most prevalent forms of debt, and it can linger for years after graduation. This creates significant financial pressure for those just starting out in their careers, and it marks the first challenge in the journey toward financial freedom that we must overcome. During this stage, the goal is to manage and pay off this debt, laying a strong foundation to move on to the next stages of our financial journey. Next, the second milestone is what I call the dependence on family stage. This is the starting point for most of us. It's like a milestone 0. While it's not necessarily a negative milestone, it's still a point where we don't have anything to our name yet, and we're still relying on our family for support. During this stage, many young people are either just starting out in their careers or still figuring things out, and they don't yet have the financial independence to stand on their own. It's a time when we might still be living with our parents, depending on them for rent, groceries, or other financial support. Though this stage isn't inherently bad, it marks a period of transition. We're not in debt anymore, but we also haven't reached financial independence yet. The goal here is to start building financial stability, gain some savings, and slowly work toward becoming self-sufficient. This is where we start taking responsibility for our financial future and start making strides toward the next stage of financial freedom. Next, the third step is when we start working and are able to support ourselves. I believe this is the stage where most young people are, and many will stop here, potentially living their whole lives at this step. However, if you stop here, you're still living in a way that is, earn enough to spend enough each month. And as I mentioned in the previous episode, living like this creates a lot of financial risks. If something unexpected happens, it becomes very difficult to manage. That's why I group these 3 steps together in what I call the stress and uncertainty stage. While we can support ourselves, without a solid financial foundation, life remains full of anxiety. This stage is when we don't yet have long-term financial stability, and any unexpected events can cause major distress. The goal here is to build a stronger financial foundation, have savings, and prepare for emergencies. We want to avoid living in constant worry about money and instead begin working towards larger goals in the financial freedom journey. Next, we move on to a stage that I jokingly refer to as the enlightenment stage. However, calling it that might sound a bit dramatic, so I prefer to use a more straightforward term: the monitoring and action stage. In this stage, there are 3 key milestones that we need to focus on. This is when you start taking control of your financial situation and actively tracking where your money goes. You've learned enough about managing your finances, and now it's time to put everything into practice. It's about monitoring your income, expenses, and investments, and most importantly, taking the necessary actions to move towards financial independence. The milestones in this stage mark a shift from simply surviving financially to actually starting to build wealth and security. It's about being intentional with every decision you make and setting yourself up for long-term financial success. Let's break down each of these milestones in detail. First, it's when we begin to learn how to plan and track our expenses. This step is extremely important because it helps you calculate the basic financial markers, particularly 2 key numbers: your minimum spending level and your standard spending level. These numbers are crucial because they will be used to calculate the next financial milestones in your journey. Once we've set up the entire tracking and spending process, we move into the action phase. The first action we need to take is to eliminate all bad debt that we have. I refer to this milestone as the debt elimination milestone. Eliminating bad debt not only helps reduce financial pressure but also creates a solid foundation for long-term financial stability. This is the first essential step to free yourself from financial stress and move toward financial freedom in the future. This is also a very important step, and in this phase I will share with you how to identify and analyze what constitutes bad debt versus good debt. Along with this, I'll guide you on how to create a fairy tale, which is essentially a priority list for each debt, so that you can determine which debts should be tackled first and which ones can be handled later. Once we've established this priority order, we can then create a clear roadmap for addressing the debts, starting from the highest priority and working our way down. This process will allow you to systematically reduce your financial obligations and make progress towards eliminating bad debt, ultimately leading to a healthier financial situation. If you successfully complete this step, it will already be a major achievement for you. It will help transition your life into a new, lighter, and more comfortable phase because, from now on, you will no longer have to live under the pressure of debt. After clearing your debts, the next step, step 6, is to manage your cash flow. The reason for this is that if we let money flow into one place, it becomes very difficult to manage, and it increases the risk of spending money we shouldn't be using. I will guide you on how to effectively allocate your cash flow. I will introduce you to the concept of everyday expenses, which applies to regular spending categories, and also explain the importance of building high-value assets, and how these should be used for specific activities. Additionally, I will help you set up a solid emergency fund and also a grande fund, or some may refer to it as a sink fund. First, I'll explain what an emergency fund is, and how it differs from the Grande Fund, and why it's important to allocate both of these funds. I will also guide you in calculating the appropriate ratios for each type of fund. Once you've set these up, you'll have the necessary financial cushion for your life and will understand how long your financial buffer can last in case of unexpected events, ensuring that your quality of life won't be affected. These activities not only create a financial safety net for you but also help eliminate the financial uncertainty that may otherwise weigh on your life. Next, we move on to a new stage, the accumulation and investment stage. This is when, after successfully completing step 6 in the previous stages, we have built a solid financial foundation. Now it's time to recruit our soldiers and prepare for battle. I call this going to battle because, as one well-known investor and judge on the show Shark Tank, named Cayman Ori, once explained, he sees his money as soldiers. Each day, he sends them out into battle, and at the end of the day, he hopes they will return with more prisoners, meaning they will bring in more money. This is a fun way of thinking about how we can make our money work for us and grow. And this, in essence, is the focus of this stage. We will start accumulating and investing. But before we can get into the investment process, there's an important step we must first complete: recruiting our soldiers. This means having enough capital to begin investing. Once you have built up your funds, we move into the next phase. We'll proceed with this stage through two main activities. 1. Building an investment portfolio, along with the strategies and principles for managing those portfolios. 2. Creating additional passive income streams. The reason these two activities need to go hand in hand is because it's a fundamental principle of investing, building wealth by having money generate more money. As we accumulate a certain amount of capital, we then move on to the investment phase. In this step, I'll share with you how to choose effective investment models and how to diversify your portfolio in a way that keeps it safe, based on my personal experience. These 3 steps in this stage can be carried out in parallel. It's not necessary to complete one before starting the next. I'll guide you on when to focus on each step in more detail later. One thing to keep in mind is that this stage might take a while. We will continuously accumulate and invest until we reach the next phase, which is the ultimate goal: financial freedom. This is the nirvana we are striving for, where we can finally say that we've passed through the stage of financial independence. In this journey, there are 3 important milestones, and these are concepts that many people often confuse or misunderstand. The first milestone in this journey, which I call financial security, is when we reach financial safety. This is the point where we have enough money to ensure our basic needs for the rest of our lives. In other words, even if we are unable to work anymore due to unforeseen circumstances, we still have a guaranteed minimum living standard. The second milestone is financial independence. This is the stage where we can live without needing to work, and our financial needs are met at the level we desire. From now on, we no longer need to trade time for money, and this opens up countless other opportunities for us. Finally, the highest milestone in this journey is financial freedom. This is the state where we are completely free from the influence of money. By this point, money becomes a tool that serves other goals in our life, rather than controlling our life. In this section, I will guide you on how to calculate these milestones: financial security, financial independence, and financial freedom. Additionally, I will help you distinguish between 2 concepts that are often confused: financial independence and financial freedom. Through this, you will understand why financial freedom typically comes after financial independence, though sometimes it can happen sooner. This will help you realize that financial freedom is the ultimate goal, the point where money no longer impacts the quality of your life. This is when you can finally say, F***CKU money. So, that's the entire financial journey. Also, please note that this is my personal formula, one that I have crafted from my own experiences. It may not be the same as other people's formulas, but based on my experiences, I believe this is a clear and effective approach. As you can see, this is a long journey, and going from one step to the next sometimes takes many years. It requires a great deal of determination and perseverance throughout the process. I've made many mistakes along the way, and from those mistakes, I've learned valuable lessons for each step in this journey. I hope that through my sharing, I can help you avoid those mistakes, saving you time and effort as you embark on this journey. I hope that today's sharing has given you a clear overview of the entire financial freedom journey. I don't know about you, but for me, when I laid out this roadmap for myself and saw the entire picture, I became very excited. Now, I hope you feel the same way. I hope that after today's sharing, I've inspired you to take on this journey. With each episode, we only need to add a little more inspiration so that by the end of the series, we have enough motivation to take action and achieve our goals. In the next episode, I will dive into each stage, discussing what we should do in each step, how to set our goals, the experiences we should have, and what to do and avoid. I will share everything with you to make this journey a bit easier for you. For now, I will end this episode here. If you found the content helpful, feel free to share it with your friends. Thank you for following, and I look forward to seeing you again